Well, I mean, I figure with a week before the draft, I figure I may as well do a mock draft of my own. Now, quick disclaimer. I am not a college football expert by any means. Uh, so I don't know much, if anything, about these players. I've heard some things, but for the most part, I'm mostly clueless. But I figure why not? Also, side note, I didn't do any trades in this mock draft, just because I wanted to keep it simple. But I'll say if I expect the team to trade up or down. But without further ado, number one overall, Tennessee Titans are going to take Cam Ward. I think this is the most obvious pick. Titans, I don't think they want to go into next season with Will Levis as their QB1. On top of that, Titans didn't sign a quarterback in free agency, which you wouldn't do that unless you are going to take a quarterback. And so I think the Titans are going to take a quarterback. And I think it's going to be Cam Ward because the Titans really seem to like him. Moving on, number 2 overall, we have the Cleveland Browns taking Travis Hunter, the cornerback wide receiver from Colorado. And I think they're just going to take him because, well, I could see him taking a quarterback. Don't get me wrong. I very well could see them taking a quarterback. But I think the problem is that, quote unquote, weak draft class for QBs, I don't know if the Browns are going to want to take a chance on a quarterback when they can maybe get a more surefire thing next year if they're bad. And who knows what Deshaun Watson's status is. So again, I very well could see them taking a quarterback. But in this case, I think they're just going to go best player available. And they're just going to take Travis Hunter. Number 3 overall, I have the New York Giants selecting Will Campbell, the offensive tackle from LSU. I'm looking down at my phone because that's where I have my mock draft. Yeah, I think they're going to go offensive line here. I very well could see them taking a quarterback, especially if Cleveland doesn't. I could also very well see them trading back if Cleveland does take a quarterback. But my thinking is that, again, as I said, in a quote-unquote weak quarterback draft class, they may not want to take a quarterback, and they may want to wait a year. And so why not beef up the offensive line while you wait for your next guy, get him a year in the weight room, and hopefully he'll improve. Plus, Evan Neal has not worked out over there at all. So I think Will Campbell is going to go to the Giants. As I said, I could see him trading back. Number 4 overall, we have the Patriots taking Armand Membo, offensive tackle from Missouri. Patriots signed Stephon Diggs. They really need an offensive line bad. It's really bad over there. They don't need a quarterback right now. Drake May seems to be the guy for them. So they just want to build around him. Your defense is fine right now. You just signed Stephon Diggs, as I said, so that covers one of your needs. You'll need another wide receiver later on, but you don't have to draft one in the first round now. But yeah, I think they're going to go offensive tackle. And number 5 overall, I have the Jacksonville Jaguars selecting Abdul Carter, the edge from Penn State. Again, as I said, I think it's just best player available here. Nothing too out of the ordinary here for Jacksonville. Plus, they got rid of Trent Baalke, so immediate win. So they'll absolutely take best player available, which Trent Baalke failed to do countless times. Number 6 overall, I have Ashton Jeanty, the running back from, is that Boise State? Yeah, Boise State, going to the Raiders. Yeah, sorry for the cut there, but I couldn't say no to this creature. Anyways, as I was saying, I think Ashton Jeanty is going to go to the Raiders. Because right now the Raiders don't really have a good running back or a running back at all. So I think it just makes the most sense for them to take a running back, and why not take Ashton Jeanty, the best guy available. At number 7 overall, I have the New York Jets taking Tyler Warren, tight end out of Penn State. Look, Jets, they have their quarterback. Oh, Shady, what are you doing? Being weird. Yeah, as I said, Jets have their quarterback. They're going to give Justin Fields a chance. I could see him going offensive line, but I don't think they will. They very well could go offensive line with Tyron Smith retiring, but I think they're more likely to go with a weapon for Justin Fields. But the Jets could go a different number of directions. I just think they'll go in this direction. Also, Tyler Warren is going to be a beast. I think so, anyways, but we'll see. Number 8 overall, I have the Carolina Panthers taking Jalen Walker, the edge out of Georgia. Look, Panthers, they traded Brian Burns a couple years back, and they haven't replaced him at all yet. I think this is going to be the Brian Burns replacement, and you hope that he can be what Brian Burns was. And of course, on top of that, you like Bryce Young, you like what you saw out of him at the end of last year. So why not help give him a defense so hopefully you can win some football games. Number 9 overall, I have the Saints taking Shedeur Sanders, the QB out of Colorado. Now, I want to say, I made this mock draft before Ryan Ramczyk announced retirement. I'm recording this afterwards. So, as a result, I didn't feel like redoing an entire mock draft because of Ryan Ramczyk. So, I very well could see the Saints taking an offensive lineman as a result. However, with Derek Carr's status up in the air on whether or not he'll play next season, I very well could see the Saints taking a quarterback. So why not take the best one available, according to me, at this point in the draft? Number 10 overall, I have the Chicago Bears taking Kelvin Banks, offensive tackle out of Texas. Yeah, okay. Bears need offensive line. God, their offensive line was so bad last year. They need an offensive line bad. So help Caleb Williams out. Get yourself an offensive lineman. And you'll be doing great. Number 11 overall, I have the San Francisco 49ers taking Mason Graham, defensive lineman out of Michigan. 49ers, they could use a lot right now. They lost so many pieces in free agency. You still haven't paid Brock Purdy. You need help right now. So get yourself defensive lineman. Hopefully you can come in and be good, obviously. But I don't know. 49ers need so much help right now. They need safety, cornerback, offensive line, I would argue, because Trent Williams isn't getting any younger. Wide receiver probably would help. They need a lot right now. Yeah, I know. The 49ers, they need help, Shady. Number 12, I have the... Oh boy, I'm going to butcher this name. At number 12, I have the Cowboys taking Titaroa McMillan, wide receiver out of Arkansas. Arizona. Yeah, wide receiver out of Arizona, that guy. I have them taking him. This is such a Jerry Jones pick. To put it bluntly, it's such a Jerry Jones pick. Yeah, I know, Jerry Jones is a fool, isn't he, Shady? At number 13, I have the Miami Dolphins taking Will Johnson, the cornerback out of Michigan, with Jalen Ramsey probably on the move from the sounds of it. They're going to want to beef up the secondary again. Now, you hope that maybe Jalen Ramsey can stay after the draft, so that way maybe he can tutor this guy for a bit. But even then, you have other veterans there. But, we'll see. Number 14, I have the Indianapolis Colts taking Colston Loveland, tight end out of Michigan. Again, I could see the Colts trading back. I think, if you ask me, I think Tyler Warren is the best fit for the Colts. So if he's not there at 14, I very well could see them trading back. They could also possibly use safety, linebacker, maybe could be addressed, wide receiver even. But I think they're okay with their wide receivers right now. But I think tight end would be the best pick for them. But we'll see how they act. At number 15, I have the Falcons finally addressing the edge. Oh my god, they're taking Michael Williams out of Georgia. Again, I apologize, not very familiar with these players. Michael Williams, look, everyone thought Falcons were going to take Dallas Turner at 8. I thought they were going to take Dallas Turner at 8. They didn't. Instead, they got Michael Penix. And, I mean, we'll see how good he is. We'll see if that's the right pick in the future. But they're finally addressing the edge. And now they have nobody because Grady Jarrett is now gone. So you need to address the pass rush. You need to. It's been the Falcons' biggest need for years. For years, it's been their biggest need, and years they've neglected that position. Anyways, moving on, I have at number 16 the Arizona Cardinals taking Jahdae Barron, cornerback out of Texas. Cardinals need defense. No ifs, ands, or buts about that. They badly need defense. At number 17, I have the Cincinnati Bengals taking Malachi Starks, safety out of Georgia. The Bengals defense was historically bad last year. It was awful. So you guys can see Shady. You probably want to see her more than me. But yeah, in all honesty, as I said, Bengals really need a safety. They need anything on that defense. I could see him going edge if the Trey Hendrickson stuff isn't all smoke and mirrors. I could see him going with edge, but for right now, I have him going safety. And number 18, I have the Seattle Seahawks taking Shamar Stewart, edge out of Texas A&M. This one I don't know for sure because the Seahawks, I wouldn't say they really direly need anything. Maybe linebacker they could use, but I don't really think they need anything in particular. I think they honestly have a pretty well-rounded team. Maybe you could draft a quarterback, but you just signed Sam Darnold to a 3-year deal. I don't think you'll do that yet. Not yet, anyways. But I have him going edge for right now. I don't know if that'll necessarily be true, but we'll see. At number 19, I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking Jihad Campbell, linebacker out of Alabama. Devin White is such an interesting player. He was good for 2 years, but then after the Super Bowl, he kind of fell off. And now the Bucs kind of need a linebacker again. And I think they're going to address that here just because they could use it. Number 20, I have the Denver Broncos taking Matthew Golden, wide receiver out of Texas. You can't go in the next season with Courtland Sutton being your only wide receiver. Now, just like the Colts, I very well could see the Broncos taking a tight end. But they just signed Evan Ingram, so I don't know how likely that is. But I very well could see them taking a tight end. I don't think they will because they signed Evan Ingram. But you can't go into next season with Courtland Sutton being your only wide receiver. Anyways, moving on. Number 21. Pittsburgh Steelers, I have taking Jackson Dart, QB out of Mississippi. Look, Steelers are still waiting on Aaron Rodgers news. He hasn't decided whether or not he's going to play, if he's going to retire. He wants to drag this out as long as possible. Steelers, I don't think, are going to wait. They're going to draft the quarterback, and it'll probably be Jalen Milroe, and it'll make me mad because he is the one player I do not want. So they'll probably draft him and make me upset, but that's okay. I do think they address the quarterback here. I think they're going to take Jackson Dart. I don't know. Just a feeling. I don't know. Yes, as you can see, I am obviously a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. And if they draft Jalen Milroe, I'm going to lose my mind. I'm going to lose it. I can promise you that. Number 22, I have the Chargers taking Mike Green, the edge out of, where is that? Marshall. The edge out of Marshall. They just lost Joey Bosa, so obviously you're missing some depth there. So I think they're going to draft this guy to be the Joey Bosa replacement, or at least you hope he can be that. But at 23, I have the Packers taking Kenneth Grant, defensive lineman out of Michigan. Yeah, the Packers' biggest need right now is pass rush. Absolutely. Maybe they go wide receiver. Maybe they go the wide receiver out of Ohio State. I forget his name right now. I could see that. But I think they're more likely to address the pass rush because they could use that pretty badly. If you ask me, I think it was their main downfall last year. And number 24, I see the Vikings taking Nick Emenwari from South Carolina. He is a safety. Look, Harrison Smith isn't getting any younger. And with that being said, you draft this guy, you have him learn under Harrison Smith. Probable Hall of Famer, at least if you ask me. He'll certainly go on the Vikings Ring of Honor. But, I mean, Vikings don't, just like the Seahawks, I don't really think the Vikings need anything in particular. Maybe interior offensive line, because Garrett Bradbury hasn't really worked out there. But I feel like they're more likely to address the defense. But I don't know. I could see him going interior offensive lineman. At number 25, I have the Houston Texans taking Josh Simmons, offensive tackle out of Ohio State. Yeah, I think this one is one of the more obvious picks. Not Josh Simmons in particular, but just the fact that the Texans taking a lineman. Just because their offensive line was so bad last year. It was I don't want to say it was the main reason for CJ Stroud's regression, but it certainly didn't help. And on top of that, there's also the fact that they traded Laramie Tunsil, first and foremost. But there's also the fact that you already have two good wide receivers. Maybe you can draft an edge, but you just drafted an edge a couple years back with Will Anderson. You don't really need a linebacker, but I suppose it wouldn't hurt. You don't need a corner. I mean, offensive line just makes the most sense. At number 26, I have the Rams taking Emeka Egbuka, the wide receiver out of Ohio State. This is the guy I was talking about earlier, where I could see the Packers potentially drafting him. I could also see the Chargers drafting him. But the Rams, they just lost Cooper Kupp. And so I think they want to keep that 1-2 wide receiver duo going with Puka and whoever else. And in this scenario, I have it being Egbuka. Number 27, the Baltimore Ravens are taking Derek Harmon, defensive lineman out of Oregon. Oh, where do I start with the Ravens? The Ravens, one of their bigger issues is defensive line. You have guys. Matabike hasn't really worked out. At least he didn't have a good year last year. And so I think that's kind of alarming for the Ravens, and I think they may act upon it. Because they didn't do much in free agency. Because they didn't have much money. So I think they might. I wouldn't be surprised if they make a big move in the draft. As much as I hate to say it, the Ravens are rather draft savvy. And they know how to get the best value out of their players that they draft. At number 28, I have the Detroit Lions taking Walter Nolan, a defensive lineman out of, where is that? Is that Mississippi? I think that's Mississippi. Yeah, I have the Lions taking a defensive lineman because their entire team died last year. I don't think that's an understatement. And if anything happens to Hutchinson again, you don't want to be completely hopeless in terms of pass rush. And obviously, you already lost to Darius Smith due to free agency. But, I think you got to take a defensive lineman. You got to take defense in some form, I think. Number 29, I have the Washington Commanders taking James Pierce Jr., an edge out of Tennessee. Yeah, I have this happening for no in particular reason, but I think Washington's defense definitely needs more work than the offense right now. But I mean, that's just me. I mean, I would say I could see him going corner, but they traded for Marshawn Lattimore. I don't see that happening. Maybe they go safety. I could see that. At number 30, I have the Bills going Gary Zabel, defensive lineman out of who knows where. I can't read that good. Yeah. The Bills, again, just like the Packers and the Chargers, I could see him taking a wide receiver. If the Rams don't take Egbuka, that's probably who the Bills go with. I could see him trading up to get him. I could see that. Because they passed on a wide receiver in the first round last year. So I could see him going after one this year. So don't be surprised if the Bills take a wide receiver. At number 31, I have the Chiefs taking Tyler Booker. I don't know what position he plays because I can't read that. I'm going to assume he's an offensive lineman. As I said, I apologize. I don't know much about these players. And I unfortunately cannot read the picture I took on my phone. He's probably an offensive lineman, right? He's probably an offensive lineman. Now I need to look this up. Dang it. I'll look it up later. At number 32, I have the Eagles taking Josh Conerly Jr., offensive lineman out of Oregon. It makes sense. I could also see him going with defensive lineman because Brandon Graham just retired. But I think it's more likely they shore up the offensive line a bit. But anyways, that's it for my awful mock draft. Bye. Don't die.